Y'all done?
Well,
we could go.
We could keep I think that's the wrong question.
This is why you don't bring your friends onto your show.
We can do this all night.
No. Welcome everyone to a new episode of Glitch, Grind, Glow, where we are here all about expanding the pursuits of tech and entrepreneurship. Our mission has been to close out the knowledge gap as it relates to understanding technology, digital marketing, small business, and just entrepreneurship as a whole for our community. I'm Candice Scarborough-Sanchez. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Please be sure to subscribe and like this episode because I know you guys are going to love it at the end of the episode. And we can go ahead and get started. So today, today I'm really excited because not only do I have two phenomenal people in the tech and marketing industries, but they are also two of my very closest friends, people that I love very dearly, who get on my nerves quite often.
Debatable.
But also people that I have been fortunate enough to join in business ventures. I think, Ashley and I have done our foray into the tech startup world. We're still in the middle of it somewhere. I don't really even know.
Coming soon.
Soon. We'll talk about that. We will have that founder on the show at some point, but I don't know when. And then Phil and I have also partnered on a bunch of different tech initiatives related to his tech company. And so I don't want to spend too much time trying to sell the accolades for them. I do want them to introduce themselves. And I was going to list off you guys' titles and do all that good stuff. But I feel like it's a little bit more genuine and easy flowing if you guys introduce yourselves. Because the very next thing I'm going to ask after you introduce yourselves is to tell me, give me your 2-minute elevator pitch. Like if you wanted to introduce yourself to someone and you wanted to have them know everything that they needed to know about your story in 2 minutes.
Wow, that's different than an elevator pitch, but all right.
Why? Why is that different?
So my intro, like elevator pitch is like somebody that I want to do business with. I want to give them a quick snapshot of what I want to do and see if it's valuable to them as to not waste their time or my time. So that's why I said mine is more of a 30-second pitch. But
you could do that in 30 seconds?
Sure.
What?
Less than 30 seconds.
Okay.
He's been using the same one for 30 years.
Let's say, so like the IT company, right? Generally, we're at some kind of GovCon kind of thing, and I meet somebody and I'll say, hey, I have a company, greiBO Solutions. We do data management for big data solutions in the DoD space, primarily for intelligence customers. From that, if they're buying, if that's what they're in the market for, if you're in the market for that or not quickly.
Okay.
Right? You say, oh, we do XYZ. Tell me a little bit more about, and then you can go into different tangents from that. But that initial interaction, most people are like, you're walking in, it's quick. You got to be and see if it's valuable to them. If it's valuable for them, they'll stop. If not, you keep it moving. Talk to the next person.
Okay, so there's nothing about like your accomplishments, your accolades. It's literally just like, I'm the president of greiBO. This is what we're doing, and then what? Like, here's my card. Here's my information.
Sure.
You want to follow up,
right? Yeah. If you want to follow up, here's my information. We'll exchange information. If not, they might be. I don't want to dig into the stuff that we actually do, but let's say, just in generic terms, I'm like, hey, I make paper plates. They're like, wow, I buy cups. I don't need to talk to you.
Right. Okay.
But if somebody else is like, oh, I do buy plates. What type of plates do you have? Okay. What's the density? Then you can start digging down the specifics.
So what about from your experience? Because I know that if you've provided a lot of these solutions for people, how tech startup, small business entrepreneurship focus is greiBO? Or is greiBO going to do mostly more established engagements and established businesses?
Sure. So greiBO has kind of two separate entities, right?
Okay.
We have greiBO Solutions, which primarily deals with stuff, DoD customers, right? Very specific space that's unique in several ways, not very much like commercial. It's very unique in and of itself. And then we have greiBO Media, and that's the one that most people are familiar with that does audio, video, event production, brand management, and things of that nature.
Interesting.
see. And then I also have another company, Wall Street Partners, this community-based development company.
Okay, so if anybody wanted to find out more information, where could they find?
greiBO.com, greibo.com, or wallstreetpartners.com, WALLST partners.com.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that was longer than 2 minutes. I feel like there's enough.
Yeah, but that's because you started asking me questions. That's what I'm saying. My intro line is like, pop.
Yeah, but I feel like I want to know more. I want to know more about you. It's intriguing. You like hook people in with the 30 seconds.
Sure, that's the goal. That's what.
Got it.
I probably didn't position it right. The opener is 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then depending on your response, we can go in several different directions from there.
Okay.
And generally lasts a lot longer than 2 minutes because you start talking about specifics.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna turn it over to Ashley. So one thing I do, I can represent this better. I was practicing this like all morning. So Ashley is the VP of social media for Paramount, specifically covering BET, BET Plus, and VH1.
Got it.
Now, this is my friend. I've known her a very long time, but today I had to figure out exactly her title because she gets new brands like every other week.
So that was the exact title now?
Yes, that's now.
That is my current title. Yes.
But, it's been a journey. Yeah. Like every other week she has a new title.
It's Infinity Stone collecting. Every year I get a new brand. So, So
I was like, I don't want to mess it up. But all right. So your turn. I would like a 2-minute elevator pitch about who Ashley Grayson is.
Yes. So I am bigger than my vice president role. Like there's a person behind the title, not as concise as my brother over here. But I would say if I were talking about 2 minutes about myself, I'm a product of Baltimore. I am first generation high school grad, college grad, grad school grad. First one in my family to kind of get the opportunity to be in a room like this with peers and friends like you guys, but also just in the places that, Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, TV One, NBC Universal. So a lot of my background has been kind of the fuelant to kind of drive and put myself in places where my community and my upbringing haven't necessarily been afforded those opportunities.
Absolutely.
So that's a big part of my backstory. It's a big part of my journey, and it's a big part of how I lead.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do want to point out, and this was something that I was going to spend some time talking about, but you guys, one of the reasons why I have you guys both here together is because there's so much synergy between who you guys are as people and experiences. So both Ashley and Phil are from Baltimore. They both are Morgan State alum, which is also very, impactful and important. And then I think you guys have played with a lot of in the same spaces with some high profile clients and, also helping the community. So it's just, there's a great synergy here. I know Phil was like, I'm a tech guy. Like, I'm just a tech guy.
So that was my tech pitch. It's if we're talking like Phil Stokes,
yes, that's who I care about. That's why we're here.
People don't get that in the elevator pitch.
Right. So, what's in that part?
Similar to Ash, we both came from, I think actually the same area in Woodlawn.
So wait, that's it. Both of y'all grew up in Woodlawn, because I mean, a large part of our audience is based in the DMV. Mm-hmm. So I just want people to be like, we may go to school together.
I consider myself kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've started several businesses since as early as middle school. I had a DJ company in middle school. Mm-hmm.
What was the name of that company? You remember?
Nope. DJ Slide something or other.
Oh, that's
the paperwork was not submitted properly. You feel me? That was a very cash heavy business.
Oh, okay.
I had a company delivering papers. I got a paper out when I was 11. I did very well, so I started accumulating other paper routes. I had several paper routes, and I partnered with my manager, and we started doing driving routes. And this is before middle school. In college, we had a tech startup doing math tutoring, math teaching, and this is going to date me, in a CD-ROM.
Ooh.
Arthur Ware, shout out Macromedia. I was with that, all that. So I think there's significant value in ownership, in owning the business and owning the intellectual property and the IP. So whatever I do, I try to make sure I have ownership or the folks around me have ownership, and we're building something for our community. So
I want to say, like, was really fascinated about that. First of all, I didn't know you were a DJ. So all the events we have.
well, greiBO
you
Media
could've
started
DJ'd.
from that. I
And
don't
he's
DJ
also a
anymore.
break
Okay.
dancer.
You know, okay, say we're gonna need to have a
So,
segment, an
yeah,
intermission.
So he was a DJ
I thought
and a
I was-
break dancer.
I thought I was going to be a professional break dancer.
Phil, you got
in
to give us
82,
something.
Like, no BS.
Yes.
I feel like I got some photos to show you. Listen,
I need the matching
Let's
fit.
take-
I
let's
need him
take it down a
spinning on
notch.
his back. But one of the things that I find like kind of stood out was the whole how you started being an entrepreneur even before you were double digits.
Yeah.
And like I think about like commonalities and like very successful people of how we probably all started very early and like regular kids are outside playing, but same. Like I would go to the corner store and buy like gum or
Bubblegum
Ollie's, and I would
hustler?
buy the
Did that
big
too.
bundle pack of gum, and I would be in the school in the locker,
Yeah.
like hustling, $1 for this piece of gum, or even like fixing flat tires when I lived in the city, right? Like when kids would get flat tires on their bike, like I would be patching them, like just always
Sure.
trying to figure out like my family isn't making enough money.
Yeah.
Is there something I can start to do to kind
Yeah.
of push us forward? So that's kind of fascinating to me when you think about probably what we all have in common. Like it started so early.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like you said, our family didn't have, like my mom, we never really wanted from us, but both of my parents were in education. My mom was a teacher, my dad worked for Baltimore City's Board of Education. So we weren't a cash heavy
Yeah.
folks. My mom was a saver. She was a worker. My dad, I watched them work. Even like you're talking about, I worked when I was 13, I worked as a janitor from 4 to midnight when I got out of school. Like everybody went to play. I went to
Right.
Virginia with a mopping floors.
You were a custodial engineer.
Hey. But along those same lines, that showed me what I didn't want to be doing forever.
Yeah.
Right. And so you kind of just try to position yourself to get to where you want to be and figure out those kind of
And
things
another
early.
bill, it's wild because we spend so much time around each other. But like my adopted mom was a teacher turned guidance counselor.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
when I went into foster care, school was not my thing. I barely went to school.
Oh, it was
And
it was when you were done though.
when she took me for a summer.
Yeah.
And literally went from barely being able to write a sentence
Yeah.
in math to being a straight A student in less than
Yeah.
a year. So like even that, like,
Yeah.
just knowing.
Shout out to education.
Yeah.
Like it's a game changer
yeah.
for sure.
That's so crazy that I guess it is, because again, you guys are my friends. We come together, but I saw this.
Yeah.
I knew
That's
that you
crazy.
guys had such similarities. And like, even though you're two separate fields that are adjacent to each other, it's like, I knew it. I saw it. And I was like, y'all could definitely vibe out. So I'm very blessed to have you guys here. And it was a
Thanks
lot
for
of work
having
to
us.
get Phil here because he told me no like 7 times.
I did. No, that's true.
Like I literally, and it wasn't until I said Ashley will do it with you that Phil was like, "All right, I'll do it."
That's
I'm
also
super
true.
honored
That's
that
So
my name
he
has enough-
literally
That's
turned me
true.
down
Nah, that's true.
a bunch of times, and I was like, "I got it. Like
That's
Ashley
true.
and you are gonna do it together." And he was like, "All right." So I appreciate you, and I thank you for being here because I know you really did want to do this.
Sure. Well, like we were talking about before the cameras rolling, like I do all that on that side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually setting up mics, setting up lights, checking EQs, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more comfortable in that space.
Absolutely, and I get that,
Yeah.
but I also think you have a lot of value to bring to the conversation.
Well, I appreciate that.
So yeah, I'm glad I drug you here. So.
Thank you, man, for coming along. I'm not strong enough by myself,
No,
but
no,
with you,
no.
this might be.
Whatever.
This might be a good episode.
First of all,
with
this
you.
is not
Oh,
Ashley's
my
first podcast interview.
Right.
So like she be
Gonna
on
be the best
panel.
one because
she be
I'm
Red
on
carpet,
here with
yo.
this guy.
Yeah,
Red
absolutely.
carpet, yo.
So before we get into like the more serious questions, y'all did take it to a very serious turn. And so
I'm-
this was we are in the icebreaker part of the afternoon. So the question that I have for you guys right now is the tech business playlist, right? The anthem. If you guys had to pick 3 songs that would be a part of your anthem for whatever you got a major project coming out, you rolling out your business, what are your 3 songs that you'd pick to make your anthem out of?
So,
Phil was answering this question.
I can answer that a couple ways. So the one that describes it, the description of it,
Yeah.
without question, Dreams and Nightmares.
Okay.
This is the highest
Solid
of highs and lowest of lows. When I tell you, being an entrepreneur, you bask in the sun when it goes well, and you are in the depths of hell when it does not.
Correct.
I promise you, like, And it's not for everybody. People need to really understand there's no 9 to 5. There's no, I got to have this weekend. Nah, if something's due, you're doing it.
Yep.
If it takes you till 5 o'clock, if you don't sleep at all, it has to get done. And you'll have staff. They go home at 5, right? And then you keep working, you keep grinding.
Yeah. I can't even sleep at night sometimes because I've got so much stuff on my head that I've got to accomplish or do. And in the to-do list just rolls day after day.
Yeah.
So.
We'll go back and forth. We'll go one for
one. All right. So one for
one. So I would start with DMX, Who We Be. That's like a rally call for myself when I feel like I'm in situations where people are questioning what I bring to the table or haven't really quite gotten familiar with like my commitment to excellence. Yeah. So like I think about, first of all, the poetry of the song and like how DMX is kind of like going through everything that he's in the midst of, which includes a lot of the things as entrepreneurs that we, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows, the juxtaposition of all that. But then like he has this moment where he's like, somebody come and get me, Lord come and help me. Did I know the Lord was riding with me, right? Like I think about sometimes as an entrepreneur and as a person on the journey for success, it gets mad lonely. And like you said, when the staff leaves, it's on you, right? Because you are the one who has the passion to bring it to life or the ethic to kind of keep going. So for me, it's like there's been a lot of moments in this journey where it's been like you've been isolated and solo, 100%. And you think about if you have a higher faith, right? Then something's pulling you through because there's no way I'm not strong enough to get myself through half the things I've gotten myself through. To me, it's been something pulling me. So that's one of them songs that like ramps me up when I'm like, oh, it's go time. It's time to suit up and remind people, nobody built like you. You designed yourself.
Yeah. Sheesh, that was a good one. So I was just gonna do one like that I personally use when I need energy. I'll do What We Do Freeway.
Oh,
it just puts me in a zone that I can do it. And that's working out. Whenever I need a push, like it just gets my mind in the space of by any means necessary.
Still grinding till the sun come up.
Catch you with your feet up. Yeah, so
go on.
Yeah, I say my second one is Jay-Z, My First Song. Like when he says like, when I was born, it was sworn I was never gonna be ish. Had to pull the opposite out this bitch. Had to get my ride on. Like again, coming from Baltimore, coming from Woodlawn, coming from Morgan, like the odds are not in our favor. And then to take a little bit of passion and optimism and to turn it in something that actually works and is very successful, and then it's something that you can use to feed yourself or feed others. Yeah. Like treat everything like it is my first opportunity because no one was giving us opportunities at some point.
Sure. Yeah. Wow, yours are really good. My last one was gonna be an album, and so it's actually two. And it's funny you picked Jay-Z. Is Reasonable Doubt or The Black Album, either one. And I play those back to back all the way through while I'm working. All the way through. To even try to kind of break down Jay-Z is a futile point. Like the rags to riches, the grind, all of that is the just evolution. So applicable, 100%. So all of his projects to me just kind of speak to that entrepreneur spirit and getting it from the mud.
I'm with you. Jay is definitely like that top tier for me. I would say my last one is J. Cole, Hunger on Hillside. And he has this quote in it where it's like almost like I've been through much. I've been through so much, I don't even have the right to quit now.
Sure.
And I think about
shout out to J. Cole.
Shout out to J. Cole, who's having
I was going to ask you, he's having a rough one right now.
I think like it's so interesting because like as big fans of hip hop, right? Like I love healthy hip hop beat.
Sure.
Where we picked the right track. We came and got some bars and some one-liners that's gonna punch and it's gonna sting and it's gonna wake you up. But we've never been in a situation where we've seen maturity elevate and as a rapper.
Yeah, with Jay, it's unique because he doesn't try to present himself as a thug.
Yeah.
Right.
This is who I am.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We ain't have a lot of bread, but I was for sure not a street dude.
Yeah.
My apologies. So to watch how he maneuvers around some people who are street dudes and some people who try to pretend like they're street dudes, all of them want him to project this machismo that's not who he is.
Right.
Right? And he lives authentically in that space. And I rock with that. I appreciate that. He's getting a lot of flack right now.
He's getting a lot of flack. But I think 10 years ago, we didn't know what anxiety was. We weren't talking about anxiety, depression, therapy,
mental health,
all mental
None
health,
of that
all those things, right? But it's like we've all had friendships that probably didn't work out, right? Where there's like some kind of verbal disagreement, or we weren't mature enough to work through them. And like I just resolved kind of like a situation that happened 8 years ago, and we sat down, we had dinner together, and we talked through it. And what we realized was, and I kind of knew this before we even had dinner, was like, yo, we were in different seasons and really growing up and trying to figure out how to navigate the pressure we put on ourselves in life, right? So I think as I look at the J. Cole situation, as a fan of healthy hip hop beef, I'm also like, I respect that. Yeah. Because at my age, I'm not looking to beef with anyone. Yeah. I'm looking to be like, yo, we may not be best friends, but it's love. Like, I want you to be successful and healthy and happy. So it's different now, because 10 years ago, I would have been like, nah, like go in and drop the bars and do what needs to be done. But at this point in the game, it's like, I don't wish anyone ill will. Like, we don't have to be best friends, but we also don't have to be in each other's space and intimate quarters. Yeah. But he's catching a lot of slack for it. But it shows where we're all at different places in our life right now. And
I also like that it seems, I don't know how much it actually bothers him, but he seems like it's whatever. Like I'm living.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the top 3. There's no other ones y'all want to slide in there.
That's the playlist.
I know I gave 3, but I'm like, sometimes it's hard to pick your top 3. So
what about you? What's your number 1 go-to, like, gets candy up?
Well, like he said, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, that's like my favorite CD. So there's a lot of songs on there. I kind of, my
CD
audience.
Is wild that you use the term CD still.
It is,
continue.
right?
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Because I have Reasonable Doubt on tape.
So Luis today went through and erased a whole bunch of iTunes music that I had downloaded. iTunes that I had paid for.
Yes.
Right. But I had so much music today. We was trying to clear a hard drive for today's recording. And we were like, look at all this.
History. Oh,
look at all this.
But we were supposed to pass that on to the next generation.
I know. No, we say, oh no, you did delete that, didn't you? Oh. But
this generation can get anything
they want at the drop of a dime.
Which is crazy.
But I will also say my audience knows I use a lot of Jay-Z quotes in my episodes. So like for me, that is, beginning to end, there's a lot of things in there that will keep me on the path when I've doubted myself. There's been quite a few times over the last, y'all know the things that I've been through over the last few years. When in doubt, that's who I'm turning on. That's who I'm listening to.
I always say, like, before therapy was a thing, hip hop was like kind of what helped me work through the things I didn't know how to express.
Yeah.
I never looked at it like that, but absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So next question is, what is your business, tech, whatever you want to call it, superpower? What is if you could pick one thing that you guys feel like is your existing superpower, right? So normally people would be like, if you wanted a superpower, what would you choose? No, I'm talking about what is your actual superpower?
This is a good question because my boss, we talked about this a couple years ago, and it comes so naturally to her that I think I've always known what it was, but I've had to kind of step back and like, what's working? What do you bring to the table that works? Sure. And maybe that's my superpower. I think like in the role that I'm in now, what I've kind of landed on is I have an ability to see ahead, to see right now, and to see what didn't work. So one of the things that's painful as the kind of leader that I am, what's really painful for me is I'm thinking so far ahead and trying to think about what didn't work that I take the hard route to fix it. And I've had leadership before or examples in my life where it's the patchwork process. It's like the boat has some holes in it. Let's just patch it, keep going, right? Where I've taken the philosophy of let's pull that thing out the water and let's kind of fix it as quickly as we can, as accurately as we can. And I might not show wins for the first 6 months to a year. But when that thing is out, that thing is a well-oiled machine. Yeah. I think that's one. And the other thing is being the leader the best leaders that I've had, but also like the best leader that I've always wanted for myself. And what that really means is how do I look at each person on my team and ask them like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And how do I function in a way that every day I'm tapping into one of theirs dreams, right? In a way of like, this just came across my desk. I know Phil was really interested in this. How do I set Phil up for this opportunity?
Right.
So a lot of the things the decisions that I make often aren't even things that's like going to pop up on my resume as wins, but I know I'm being a part of what I think we're all trying to be intentional about is like, how do I set up the next generation of people after me? Like, how do I build the person that's going to take my job from me? And I think, wow, that sets me up for like, I need to pay my mortgage. I think I owe it because people have done that for me.
Yeah. That's good, man. You could, I might have to go first all the time. No, I have two that I think I use a lot, but I'll talk about one. I think, especially in the space that we're in, Candice, I think you have this similar ability as well. There in tech, right? You have the management money folks, and then you have developers, right? And developers are very unique. Like good developers are very unique folks, socially, the way they process information, just a very unique group of folks, and they don't usually very often gel well with management and number crunching and money folks. And so what I try to do and with the tech company is I kind of bridge that gap, right? I'm technical enough to talk to developers like, all right, what do we have? What are we trying to do? What are we showing? What are our wins? What's killing us? Blah, blah, blah. And I can take that and I go to management and explain it in terms that they understand and attach it to milestones that they can present to their leadership, right? And that's something like developers don't want any part of the back office stuff at all. And I think, I think that's one of my best traits is being able to kind of bridge that gap. And I would say another one is probably just general problem solving. I find like in any of the businesses, right? I'll give you an example from the media company. When we used to do AFRAM, we used to produce the African American Festival. We had several teams. We had the vendor folks. We had infrastructure. We had artist relations, right? And then I had a group. It was me and usually probably four folks. And our group was called the Smoke Jumpers, right? And what that was a group of people where wherever you see a fire, you jump in and start solving that problem. Whatever it takes, whatever you need to do, solve that problem. And that's what you need to get. A lot of people do work as a bullet list, right? These are my 10 things that I do, right? If something goes left, that's your problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the ability to kind of keep stuff rolling. And from events, it's all kind of stuff on fire that nobody else knows about, right? And just the ability to kind of work through stuff, keep your head about you, figure out the problem, work it to ground, right? I would say that's my second one.
So when you first gave your first one, I was like, yeah, that's definitely. But the second one for me is something that I've tried to kind of model from what I've seen you like solve problems. Don't get all bent out of shape. I'm a very high anxiety person and feels like, let's just focus. Like, come on, like, let's calm down. Let's focus. Let's execute. And so that's to me, that is absolutely the superpower that I've tried to like kind of model after. That I've seen you exhibit. And then the other one for you, Ashley, that I think that I've seen in working with you is your ability to unlock really like people's potential, right? So like your ability to kind of hone in, understand where someone might be deficient and then grow them to get to that place where they need to be and where you expect them to be. I've seen you do that over and over, whether it's, in our personal tech startup world, which was, still very much friendship based. So we're dealing with friends, right?
Sure.
Digging in, trying to get the best out of everyone in that. In our, our executive management team, she was literally like, this needs to be better, but here's how we're going to get there. It was not just that this needs to be better. It's trying to coach
as well.
And develop. Yeah. And then things were improved each round, each time. And then I know with you at work, right? And I've been on the journey with you for a few different companies. And like in those, you are mentoring, more junior folks in your organization all the time. I mean, even sometimes not people in your direct leadership chain, right? And so you noticing, understanding what deficiencies people have and then coaching them to get there, whether they work for you or whether they just work next to you or they're working on a team with you. And I think that's like really remarkable to see.
People don't really realize how much effort it takes to do what you have to do.
Yep.
And coach folks up at the same time while not dropping any of your plates that you have spinning in the air, right? It's
and especially when they're not people that work for you, right? If they're not your direct report and you're just trying to get a job done or get a project to the finish line, and this is somebody that really should have came to the table with the appropriate skills when they entered this project, but you're like, it's too late now. I can't. I gotta dig in and get what we need to get out of this person. So I might have.
And I generally want them to be successful.
Like, absolutely.
I last year I was watching a show called Showtime. Did you watch that about the Lakers?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And did you watch it?
I didn't see all of it.
Okay. There was a scene where Magic is on the Lakers. I think he's in his second year. Everyone knows he's great, right? But he's kind of he's backtracking a little bit. He's not like his top, right? I'm sure a lot of the pressure. But there was like a scene where Pat Riley is the coach. I think he's the assistant coach at this point. But he goes in and he knows Magic has it. And then he takes the extra time and does one-on-one. So he's like talking to Magic and talking through like, Magic, what are you going through? Like, let me hear you out. But then they're also playing. So he has him doing repetition and drills. And it's just the two of them, right? And then Pat ends up in the leadership role of being head coach, eventually coming out of like leading them to a championship. But to me, like leadership is so involved in the sense of you have the pressure of the company needs and like you have to hit these numbers and these metrics and you have to generate this revenue or et cetera. But really to get there, you have to have a team that trusts you and believes in the program that you're building. And you have to give them space to like develop. But you also have to hold them to a certain level of this is the bare minimum to be on this team is repetition. You got to be able to shoot the free throws and get the rebounds. And then we can get jazzy and you can start doing the 3-pointers and the layups and all and the alley-oops and all those things. But like it's a process. And I think sometimes we come from a world where we exist around some people that don't have that same philosophy, and it's like, well, I deserve this because I've been in this role for 8 years.
Right.
It's not about how long you've been in a role. It's about what you are able to do when people aren't one. Can you lead when the leader isn't there?
Yeah, that's super difficult in the government space because that's all about seniority.
Yeah,
so it's very difficult in that space. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the golden ticket, right? Like I talked with my wife, Shalonda. Shout out to Shalonda Stokes.
Shout out to Shalonda Stokes.
President of Downtown Partnership with Baltimore. But in her role, I think we talk about this often. The doing the work, if you're talented, you can do the work, right? Bringing people up to their highest level of potential is difficult. But not only that, managing other folks' interpersonal skills. Like you can look at this and say, I see what the problem is between you two, right? You're all numbers and you're all community. I need to figure out how we make this work or not work or whatever, and just put that work in, the effort to figure that out. Because a lot of folks are like you said, like this is my list of things. Yeah, I'm knocking my stuff up. I don't know what's going on with them, right? Right. So managing that whole interpersonal relationships in an organization is difficult. It's a difficult thing.
I agree.
But I think you guys is better. You guys are better than I am. So
well, to piggyback on that, I think for me, and that kind of harnesses my superpower, which is the ability to like read people and figure out like what people need in terms of their existing like support, like how they need to be talked to, how they need to be engaged with. Right. Because everybody's going to be different. And a long time ago, I went through and did like the work love languages, right? Trying to figure out for each and every person that I have to interact with, what is going to be their.
I need to call a time.
What
are the work love languages? I've never
well, you know what the love languages
I know
are.
that.
I need to know that.
They're the same. So like you remember. So shout out to my homeboy, who I used to work with for a very long time. But you remember.
Yep.
He was a physical touch person. So you had to do a lot of like, how you doing? How's your day going? Right. Obviously, you got to be careful.
Tough now.
You got to be careful. Right.
What's your second love language?
Yeah.
What's your second one?
So, but I'll tell you.
What about a high five?
But, there's like people like words of affirmation. So sometimes it's, you did such a good job. This was amazing.
Sure.
Or, I need your help. You're the only person that can help me. Because so forth and so on, and I need you to stay these extra hours and work till this is done.
Yeah.
Some people like money, gifts, right? If you promise them a bonus at the end or some type of spot award at the end, money's going to drive them. So gifts. So I had to figure that out for everybody. And then, like you said, engineers in our space can be a little bit odd. So sometimes you just got to appeal to like how they want to be spoken to. Yeah. So it might not be the whole love language concept, but I had a guy once who you could not tell him to have a good day, to, have a safe flight. He would be like, you're not God. You can't will me to have a good day. And I would be like, okay, like.
Just salutations, my friend.
Right.
That's all we're talking.
It got to the point where I'd be like, have a flight, John. Have a day, John. See you later. And John would be like, thanks, Candice. I'm so
understanding
happy.
how I process information.
But I promise you, other people, I would watch them fall into the trap and say something he didn't like and get cussed out. They would get made to feel this big.
Yeah.
And all I said to John was, have a flight, So like learning how people, what resonates with them. And then also like being able to coach them through their moments. Because honestly, it's about work at the end of the day.
Yep.
And so
I had
understanding.
teams where all I had to do was get the building folks to turn the lights down. The lights were too bright.
Yep.
And productivity went through the roof.
Yep. I agree. It's so common.
Yeah.
It's so common. You walk in a room and you be like, I can't see nothing in here.
And you'd be like, did you ask
stuff?
the maintenance guy? I'm like, what? All right, I'll be right back.
Because they won't go talk to
No,
nobody.
they're not talking to anybody.
They're just gonna complain about it and be less productive.
But it's a personality type that you got to deal with. And even like in the development company, you have contractors, and then you have the finance folks who come in to do the draw. Like it's generally a communication barrier between different groups of folks on any kind of job, right? And if you can manage that relationship, you'll be all the better for it.
I want to give a big shout out to Candy because Candy is making folks waffles once a week. I'm like,
I'm doing it now.
She's still doing
when
it.
I saw we were working in the same building on one of our contracts.
This was 10, 15 years ago.
And you're still keeping up with it.
She's coming in with a waffle iron.
Yes.
Like, is that even, can you do that? Can you bring that in here? She's
Right.
like, I'm sure I can.
I had to go past security. I was like, would y'all like to inspect the waffle irons? They were like, all right, that's fine. I had a griddle.
She had that
A waffle iron?
jamming.
Yeah.
Everybody loves her.
But see, I love things like that because I think sometimes where I fall into like a little bit of a challenge is like my model is my model. Right.
Sure.
And it's like you said, like y'all said, you got to customize it based on certain talent.
Yeah.
That takes a lot.
It does.
It
Oh,
does.
absolutely.
Listen,
it takes a ton.
It works if you tap in with me. I got you.
I got you.
Now
We're
you
going
make
on
it
this ride.
customize this program. And I got to think about, okay, what's the way you need a little bit? It's people on my team that I can be a lot more direct with.
Sure.
Than
Right.
like, yo, that was a bad call.
Just ain't it.
This
Right.
ain't
Yeah.
it. And I expect
Yep.
more of you. And then there are people that I have to be so gentle and nurturing. And
that was good,
now
but
like,
really what we're looking for is X, Y,
Yes.
Z.
And you try to be mindful of all of their needs because I don't want anyone to. One of the things I've seen before is like, people don't leave companies, they leave their managers or their leaders. But I think that part of what I've tried to always be really honest and direct with my team to say, we're going through a significant amount of changes and it's going to hurt because you're learning a new way but the way is going to get us where we need to be, which is ultimately going to make your life easier, but it's going to hurt to get there, right? And that's not easy for a lot of people, especially just given this. I run social, right? Coming out of COVID and the pandemic, I've seen so many people who were healthy prior to COVID and the pandemic that social media has had a different kind of weight and impact on them.
Yeah.
Like it's different when you get to do it for fun. It's another thing when you have to be on social 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
And it weighs down on certain type of personalities. And it's now, right, there is no book for leadership coming out of that to say, okay, this is what just happened to your team.
Yeah.
Here's how you try to customize an approach for each of them. There are no real books written like that right now. So it's like it's on us to say, I want to be better for people.
Sure.
So it's something every day. It's like, okay, I try to be as good as possible and mindful that like, I know I have the pressure here, but the real pressure is like, am I taking care of my team?
Sure. But even kind of follow up on that, there's a symbiotic superpower also, right? That helps keep you or whatever leadership team healthy. And that's knowing when it's not going to work.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's hard to
Yes.
fire somebody.
Yeah.
If you've never been in a manager, it looks easy on TV
It
when they
looks
slam the door.
easy.
You're changing somebody's life.
Yes.
But you gotta balance that, right? You gotta balance that with how much can we put into this pot before everything else falls apart, right? And that's hard. That's a difficult super. Like I don't know a lot of people that are good at that. Most
And
people
if they are good at it, then it's a little
because then now they just fire everybody.
Right,
They're good,
right,
you know what I mean? And they have no emotion. There's nothing attached to it, right? And so, I
also think sometimes though, as leaders, we're able to see that there are instances where letting someone go is the best thing for them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right?
For all
It's
parties.
like,
Yeah.
you've been in this role so long, it's not your dream, it's not your passion.
Yeah, you need to move on.
And you've told me what it is,
Yeah.
and I've given you time to hopefully go
Sure.
find it while
Yeah.
you're still collecting this income. But ultimately, if you're going to another year, 2, 3 years in this role, and you know it's not what matters to you, and of course, all that change sucks for you because you don't want to do this anyway.
Right.
Then it's like sometimes you have to support people even when it sucks. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna actually help. I'm gonna push you.
Yeah.
Because this isn't where you belong. You have so much more to give the world, and you're kind of living in the shadows in this world.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like when that mama bird pushes the baby bird out.
Yeah.
All the babies don't fly.
Right.
No, they don't.
You got to be prepared for
For
that.
real?
You know
Wait,
what I'm saying?
y'all see the baby not fly?
100%. Like you need to go to the dark web animal videos. No, I'm just kidding.
They don't just automatically catch the wind?
All birds.
That's
don't
so
fly.
depressing.
Yeah.
That is sad.
So, but I say that to say like you have to take some risks sometimes. And everything's not going to always work out. And you got to be able to live with that.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be easy, but you got to be able to live with it.
For sure.
All right. I think we've touched on this a few times because you guys have been like sharing your stories. You shared like how you grew up and where your start to entrepreneurship was. But if we could just circle back to it, it might be quick. But you guys, both grew up in Baltimore. How do you think Baltimore, like the culture of Baltimore, the culture of, your experience in Morgan has shaped how you do business, like how you either run your company, run your organizations, when you decide to lean in and invest in another startup or another space, like, because sometimes we're just investing sweat equity, sometimes we're investing money, but like, how has your experiences growing up here shaped the decision making and the experiences that you have out in the working world?
Man.
It's loaded. It's a loaded question. It can go many ways.
So my experience is I won't say it's unique, but it's slightly different. So I'm going to start at high school. So when I was at high school, when I went to Milford Mill, shout out Milford Mill. But our high school was predominantly black. Right? Predominantly African American minority, however you want to phrase that. But I was in honors, and my honors classes were predominantly white. Which I didn't notice. I didn't realize how odd that was till I got to college. But so it gave me I had a different perspective on relations between white folks and us and black folks, right? And then I went to I graduated from Morgan, but my first school was Maryland, a PWI, and I got some jarring social kind of differences when I'd never been in an environment that was where I was the minority, the true minority, right? And it forces you to grow in a kind of way, right? And so I became much more aware of the plight of black folks in the larger society, right? And then you start, getting real Afrocentric just to kind of ground yourself, right? You want to stay grounded. It's hard. You got to kind of figure out, how do I navigate in this space, right? And then I went back to Morgan, HBCU, and if you went to HBCU, if you didn't go to a PWI, you don't realize how much love and caring and so many intangibles are at HBCU, right? It's just a different feel. It's such a different feel. One of the I'm going off of the tangent. We're not talking education, but so I say that to say when I got to Morgan, that's when we started my first tech company was at Morgan. And I want to say that tech company, we were all kids. That tech company taught me what not to do when you start a business. Like we wasn't speaking for a minute. We all cool now, but it was a hot minute where it was rough. But you see a couple things, right? And this deals with like entrepreneurship in general. If you're bad with a little bit of money, you're going to be worse with a lot of money.
Yep.
Right? Sure. And so you have to really pay attention to them. I know it's your passion, right? I know you love doing it, but it might not be you. Somebody has to stay on top of those numbers, right? And so, but the blessing inside of that was that company led to me starting greiBO,
right? Media
company, right? And so, so that was my start in entrepreneurship. We started a tech company that did, like I was saying, the algebra CD-ROM, and then that multimedia endeavor led to start a greiBO Media, which then kind of morphed as the years went on. Because like as soon as we started greiBO, multimedia kind of died and DVDs died. It was a matter of maybe 3 or 4 years we were just streaming. Like the DVD era was quick.
Yeah, it
was very quick, and then we went to streaming. And so we kind of refocused on our multimedia stuff, and then we got into streaming and events, and that's how I started. I don't know if that answered your question. I started.
It did.
In the middle.
It
okay,
did.
Cool.
No, it did. So just to reiterate for Ashley, just how do you think your experience, whether it was pre-Morgan, Morgan, but like how has Baltimore influenced some of the things that you do as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and in the space where you're either volunteering your time or working?
Yeah, I would say it's like my constitution. Like Baltimore is a part of my DNA. So like I'm in New York much more than I'm in Baltimore at this point. And when I walk into a space now, especially if it's a space I've never met people, I always lead with, I'm Ashley and I'm from Baltimore. Because that's the icebreaker, right? Most people know Baltimore for The Wire,
100%.
right? So like now I walk into a space and I always say, and I'm one of the people that's helping rebrand Be More. Because we have this negative connotation, right? Like people will troll me and they'll say, Ashley, why would we come to Baltimore? Why would we visit? Are we safe? Where would we go, right? And we kind of have this exchange of like the core of what Be More is. And so I lead with it as a joke to say, yo, I know what y'all think about Be More. I'm about to disrupt that, right? And I'm about to show you that like where you typically think you're going to get all your winning people from New York or LA or a major city.
Yep.
Or DC, like, nah, like Be More has talent that people sleep on, and I'm going to be a part of your reimagining what Be More is, right? So like, first of all, I always lead with that. It's a thing that I'm intentional about. The other thing is like my shaping in Be More, which is crazy because like my entire being is based off of community. Like when my mother couldn't, someone else stepped in and was like, all right, your mother didn't finish high school. I finished college. Let me swoop Ashley in because I see something in her and I'm just going to keep nudging her in the right direction. And like every chapter of my life has had like one amazing Black woman that came in and was like, all right, I heard what you said you want to do. Here's like, here, give you a little bit of a roadmap. I'll say Morgan for me and like, as we all think about like having like, I know you have kids, like, but like having children, right? Like would they go to a HBCU or would they go to a PWI? And I'm like, part of me is like, every one of our culture has to have that experience, even if it's for a year or two, because it's the one place you are going to be loved for who you are, no matter what, all day, every day. Like your culture is going to be vibrant and thriving. One of the things I learned at Morgan was like the talented 10th. W.E.B. Du Bois, right? And like Morgan, like we had the diaspora class that everyone had to take.
You take Dr.
I
Were
think
you there?
so, yeah.
Yeah.
You had to take it,
thing.
right? And
Talented,
learning about the talented 10th. And I'm like, leaving Morgan, I'm like, yo, like I am going to be a part of that community. And part of that is thinking about like, again, like, okay, you've gotten here, but what does it matter if you haven't reached back?
Right.
And like I always say, like, it's a blessing to be one of the ones that made it out. It's also a burden, right? Sure. Or an opportunity where it says like, okay, yeah, I'm here, but like, this isn't enough. It's not enough for me to be the only person and be more in this space. Yeah. You know, like, how do I reach back? And like, if it's an internship, if it's like a coordinator role where you get your foot in the door at Paramount and then it's yours, right? And then it's up to you to land that plane the best way you can. But I've gotten you in there because there have been few moments or opportunities where that has been done for me. And when it has been done for me, it comes with that extra pressure of like, yo, I really got to kill it so that this person knows 100%. Their investment in me was the right decision. Right.
And the pipeline, so and it creates that pipeline.
Yeah, the pipeline is important to me. So I would say like be more in like Morgan and even Woodlawn. High school, I had to say Woodlawn High School since you shouted out Milford.
I did Woodlawn Middle.
You know, I did Woodlawn Middle.
Woodmore.
George G. Cowson in the city when I lived in the city. Okay. But it's like, I don't know, it's just a part of my makeup. And I think it's an important part of the story because we didn't come from like a spoon-fed situation or a silver spoon. We came from a situation where it's like, nah, if you say you want to do this, then you're going to have to pull up and do it. Or you just one of many people who have dreams and talk about it, but never execute it.
Yeah. One of the things that you said while you were talking was, you know, the experience of having been at an HBCU at some point is like, it's impactful and it's meaningful. And so me, someone who didn't go to an HBCU, I definitely regret. And I had a choice. I had two choices. I chose not to go to Howard, right? And I definitely regret that decision later in life because I have no foundation for a lot of the same things that all of my friends who, you know, all of my closest friends went to HBCUs, right? And so I'm missing that part of my experience. And so I'm trying to gain it back now as an adult where I'm sitting in spaces with people like you guys, but my network is so small of like other Black professionals and entrepreneurs. And I'm trying to figure out how to grow it back, you know, whereas organically, if I had gone to college and studied with people that were like me, then I'd come out with a group of individuals that I could be a part of that with. It's
weird because I made the same decision. I had Howard and Tuskegee that I could have went to out the gate and Morgan that I could have went out, but I chose I was going to Georgia Tech or Maryland. Yeah. And I went to Maryland, and part of it is because like as a Black man, early in life people would make decisions about me before knowing what's what, right? I'll give you a story. I got recruited by Harvard. And they had this dinner, right? And so all the recruits had a family that was their sponsor, right? So all the other kids had a couple. I had a dude who, when I walked in, he was already at the bar drinking. And I'm like, it cannot be happenstance that I ended up with him. That's who they put you with. Right? And so I had a big chip on my shoulder when I was going to school. And I'm like, I'm going to go to one of these and I'm going to show them, you know, whatever. But I wanted to go back to some Baltimore stuff that you were talking about. And I wish Shalonda was here because she does this day in and day out, like rep downtown and rep Baltimore. And I'm going to try to do some of the stuff. I might not show it to her if I mess it up. But you talk about, whenever you say Baltimore, all people know is The Wire, right? Yeah. And we have so much more in Baltimore if people would just look, right? Yeah. We have some of the top schools, eds and meds, meds and eds and meds. We have top schools, top hospitals, right? We have museums. We have all kind of stuff that you can't find in any other city. We have access to water that people don't have, like the waterfront. We have so much to offer, and all people say is The Wire. Yeah. And it gets annoying. As much as I love it, and I love The Wire.
Yeah, right.
I love The Wire, but for that to be your be all end all is difficult.
Right.
And especially when people want to have a particular view of you in your city, and it just kind of feeds into that. Yeah. But yeah, it's so much other stuff to offer that if you just came and saw it, you know what I mean? We are definitely on the uptick, and we are so close.
Yeah.
Right.
Like just shout out to Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of the things. And, for this particular recording of this episode, for me, it was meaningful. I wanted to do it here in the city, and I was frustrated when I was trying to find a space, and then they came through. So, I'm very excited to be here because to me, it's very meaningful and impactful. And, I've owned my only other home I've owned has been in Baltimore, right? Baltimore County, granted, but for me, it's this space is where I feel comfortable, right? I've lived in DC, but in general, this is where I prefer to eat. This is where I prefer to come to events, right? And so for me, it's like even somebody that wasn't raised here, I identify with Baltimore. So like I get it. Like I can see how frustrating it is when people have that perception and you're from here, you're raised here, and all of the amazing things that are happening in the city.
I think it's challenges in any city, but I really do think it's genuinely good people in Be More. Mm-hmm. Like I think you can meet. I come across a lot of people who, again, just had born into opportunity. Mm-hmm. And they don't think twice about the person behind them or the person next to them. And for me, it's like the bigger win is when we actually figure out what is the unlock. Like, how do we kind of join forces and bring all this talent together? Like, again, some really amazing people just in Be More. And like to bring it back to the tech piece, like I remember at Morgan going through, like I had 4 internships and like picking up a little handheld camera at 92Q and Magic 95.9. And like Boys the Men came in one day and like I have no film skills, right? But I picked that camera up and I went in the studio and like I'm recording everything they had and no editing skills. And I go back to the desk at 92Q and I'm editing this video and they put it on their website and literally became like one of their little mini departments for like how to drive engagement and more traffic to their website. That's really where I got my start in social. It was just happened to like, I saw a need. And I'm like, yo, you got all this talent and these celebrities walking into the studio and like no one's capturing the moment.
Wow.
And that led to like the internship at TV1, which led to the full-time job at TV1. But it was literally like me at Morgan. I thought I was going to be in the radio. I went to school for radio. I hated my voice in my audio, my demo tape. And I was like, well, your voice, you don't have it. So you got to find something else real quick. And I picked that camera up and that was the origin of how I got here. It was just like playing around at Morgan and realizing that like I'm in the space that I want to be in, but not exactly my superpower in the space, right? And that led to another. That led one thing to another. But again, like giving kids the opportunity to like, what does tech mean? Like I don't build tech and write code, but I benefit from all the work that you guys do as tech creators and all those things. And how do I take what you've built and make it and use it in the way you've intended me to use it in a way that's really successful? And which also then places us in ways that I think we are not normally placed. For example, the visualization of Black men and Black women, how someone else might use tech to show us where we're looting or something, right? But like I'm a part of the team that gets to show us, no, we are college educated and fathers who actually spend more time with their kids than their counterparts.
Correct.
Right? Like I get to tell those stories and change the narrative of us. And I think that starts with the use of tech, which has really empowered what we do across the board.
So that's like real crazy because that's exactly kind of where I was going to ask you guys was like literally the next question that I was going to try to draw out of you was how do you foresee tech playing in social change? And like, what do you think we need to position ourselves to do right differently? Right. And that's a great example. Do you have anything else?
I feel like tech's become so ubiquitous in society now. Like it's a part of everything. So I don't have an example. That's an awesome example.
It is.
But I think where folks had some insulation from tech in prior years, now everyone's emerged to some extent, and so you really gotta figure out what's going to be your thing or how much you need to understand. But you can't just kind of like, that's not my thing. You need to understand what's happening. You need to understand what's happening with AI and all these other technologies that are emerging, right? But I want to do a real quick plug for Morgan. Okay. And it was something you were talking about. And I just want to kind of make this distinction between my experience at Morgan and at a PWI. Not everybody knows what PWI is. Predominantly white institution.
Okay.
But so many people don't know is Maryland actually has more black students than all the students at Morgan.
But the percentages.
But they have so many more, right? I think it's
Right.
like 40,000. I think it's some outrageous number. But we actually, another thing, we got really close at Maryland because it was
small community.
such a nucleus,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But that's kind of a side thing. But what I wanted to get to was engineering school. In engineering school, you do research, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do research projects, and there are many students vying for very few positions.
Mm-hmm.
At like Maryland, I can speak on Maryland because that's where I was. And in addition to that, the professors only teach lecture. When you have an issue, you're talking to a TA, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Morgan, my experience at Morgan, I could walk into any of my tenured professor's office whenever I wanted to.
Yes.
And sit down in their office and get assistance. I can get on any research. There's no research project in Morgan Engineering School that a student doesn't have an opportunity to get on, which is huge, right? Because a lot of our stuff is access, right? So just having the opportunity to do, I worked on neural network stuff, which was like the predecessor to AI many moons ago. And that would have never happened in Maryland, right? The grad students have all those slides. Like it's just, it's a different structure.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of access is unparalleled. I don't know if that's all HBCUs. I know Morgan's like that. That's my experience. And I just think that when you're trying to figure out where you want to go, you got to touch a lot of different things,
Right.
to kind of figure that out. And Morgan gave me the opportunity to do that. So
I
shout out
think
to
too,
Morgan.
like, and same experience, like my advisors, my professors, they knew way too much. Way
Yeah.
too much. Very intimate, trying to help me date and land my husband. It was very family, very
Right.
familiar. I went to Hopkins for grad school, and by then though I had already lived in LA, which gave me the most diverse experience I'd ever had, right? So prior to moving to LA, my entire ecosystem was black.
Yep.
And I went to LA and worked at Disney, and maybe two,
Sure.
3 black people, right? But very liberal organization and people who work there. What it taught me though was like the power of what we all have in common. And I think that is one of the things that, like, in very big election year, right? You look at the map, all the red and a little bit of blue that kind of borders it. I think like the HBCU experience is so critical because you have to know who you are and love yourself enough to be successful in the outside world and not let any of that noise make you question who you are.
Right.
But it also is beneficial to have an experience outside of it because at the end of the day, most of your team probably doesn't look like you.
Not at all.
So we have to get to a place also where we learn how to work with other people. And you hit this earlier, right? What do we have in common? What's your interest?
Yeah.
What is it that like moves you forward? What makes a win for you? And then I know how to navigate around your need. And to me, like, it's so much larger, right? We think about just the nation at large, like how do we, and honestly, black people are much more empathetic to me, in my opinion, than most other cultures. We will take the time to hear other people out, and we also will do what's right for the greater good of people, even if it doesn't benefit ourselves as much as we should think about ourselves. So I think that like even how we think about HBCUs and PWIs, like both are still important experiences.
100%.
You know?
100%. I think, I don't know that I'd be the same person without those 2 years at Maryland, because I had no bearing on the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I had no gauge on
Same.
how folks function. And I mean, quick, like my first night on campus, like, this is different. This is very
And
different.
only like probably 20 minutes from where you grew up,
Right.
right? But a completely different world
like,
to some extent.
we're in PG, we're in Prince George's County, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's just and I read my roommate there from PG County. It was crazy, but I think both of those experiences, I won't say equally, but definitely had a huge impact on who I am and how I view situations today, and it allows me to both see the worst possible version of it as well as the best possible version of it, right? And then you kind of weigh what's happening to get to, like, I think is this or that, but I'm not ignorant of either.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
So one of the things, and you guys are going to have different lenses at this, but I love this question, right? Because what do we think, right, from your perspective, diversity and strategies for infusing diversity, so into tech or into media or marketing? Like, what do you think works? Because what I find, and especially for Phil and I, because we're in the same cybersecurity DoD space, like, everybody's got some DEI initiative, every company that you work for, and especially the bigs. But I don't see any more, Black and brown people coming through that pipeline and staying in those companies, right? Like, they might recruit, 100 a year, but 100 a year, they're leaving. They're not retaining that same number. And so what do we think works in that space for us? What do you think works in the space that you're in? Like, how do we make sure that inclusivity and diversity kind of are maintained rather than just this endless cycle of, like, we brought them in and they're out the door, the same numbers going round and round? I don't like that look on your face.
Nah. So from my perspective, one way is ownership, right? If you own the company, you can decide who does what, and give folks opportunities that they might not have otherwise had. So I think ownership has several benefits. And that's one of them. Retention in our space is hard. Period. Regardless. Right. Right. Because there's so much competition for talent. I don't know. I figured that one out, Candice. I don't know. Other than ownership and staffing how I want to staff and putting folks where I want to put them. Yeah. Because a lot of times, like, it's not. People make the assumption that if you don't see certain folks in spaces, that it's because they don't have the talent, and that's not always the case. Opportunity and access, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to hire somebody who can't do the job because they're Black. Mm-hmm. But all things being equal, I'm probably gonna hire that Black person to try to expand that space and get some diversity to that space, knowing that the rest of the spots are filled by whoever, right? But that's not to say that I only hire Black folks. That's not at all the case. But you have to have some sensitivity around access, right? And and as long as folks can do the job at a high level, they deserve an opportunity, to do that, right?
One of the things that I noticed, and so I had some white paper we had to write a few years ago at my existing company, and we did some metrics and we looked at some data. We were bringing in consistently like 14 to 15%, minorities. It was typically Black people, women and men. But they were leaving, like, it was like a 2-year or like a 3-year turnaround before that person we brought in 3 years ago is out the door. And what we were finding for us in that space was that mentorship and, like, helping people be able to navigate what it's like in the company internally, we were struggling. And what I found was, and one of my friends who was actually in the space, and we've been in some of the same defense contractors over the years, she's like, why is our budget so bad for DEI? Like, are we going to get to go to NSBE this year? Yeah. Are we going to get to go to Afrotech? Like,
I was going to ask you
what are we like? Where is the budget to support, to send people to these things, right? And so it's like the community is so, like, poorly constructed. And then dealing with things like, there are going to be microaggressions. Mm-hmm. There is bias, right? And I talk about bias all the time. I even have my own set of bias, right? Everybody does. But and then how do you navigate that when you have someone who doesn't want to work for you because you're a Black person, right? Like, how do we build tools and infrastructure around that to say, like, it shouldn't shake your confidence. It shouldn't make you want to step down as a leader. It shouldn't actually blow up into some huge ordeal where now you're on a performance improvement plan because you don't know how to navigate dealing with somebody who is blatantly racist or disrespectful or biased, right? But what are the tools we're giving those people to handle those folks, right? People are ignoring it. and saying like, oh, it's just conflict resolution training.
Yeah.
Well, this is bigger than just conflict resolution. This is actual microaggressions. This is actual racism or ageism. I mean, I've had all kinds of, or, you know, like as a woman, I've had men that were like, I don't want to work for her. She's my daughter's age, right? Like there are a lot of different things where I've faced, and they're not giving me the tools. Like, how do I answer that man? I told my manager that he literally was like,
communication training isn't going to fix everything.
Not at all. And like, he literally like stood up and was like, I don't want to work for her. She's my daughter's age. And it was a lot of things where he's comparing me to his daughter. How do I handle that? How do I navigate that? Right? Nobody prepared me for that conversation. And when I told my leadership that's the conversation that happened, there was nothing insightful for them, like for me to navigate that.
What were they respond? How did they respond?
They were just like, that's a shame. We'll go talk to him. Like, we'll go have so they had some conversation with him outside of my purview.
Yeah.
But there was no like, well, now that you've had this encounter, how do we help you? How do we support you? Because now you're going to feel like every time you walk in a room with somebody that's 20 years older than you and is a white man, like, you're going to have PTSD from that experience of what you dealt with that man. And also, like, there's the other side of it, which is also because there's not a lot of Black people in our space. Sometimes I feel like we end up in that crabs in a barrel situation where now there's competitiveness where there shouldn't be. And so that's even something that our companies aren't preparing us for, where it's actually the people of our community who are like trying to one up each other and get over each other. Because there's not enough room. There's not a lot of Black VPs that are going to end up in our company. So I want you to succeed, but only after I succeed. Let me succeed first. And then I'll see if I can help you out once I'm where I want to be. Right. That's even something that nobody's preparing us to deal with. And so those are those things where it's like, these are the unique dynamics of our space. And we don't have anyone helping us navigate that unless you have a really good mentor, somebody that you can go to, which is typically outside the walls of your company. Where you're like, this happened. And
or even you have it, and because even like when I was at HP, I had a guy, I had a couple guys, but one guy in particular jumps on my mind when I was interning at HP. And shout out to Nesby. I got my gig at HP from
Nesby.
Nesby. Yeah. Nesby's a huge
amazing
part of helping
you
folks.
going this year?
Mike Sydney is active in Nesby.
Oh,
she's
maybe we'll see her there this year.
Yeah.
Who's Sydney?
Sydney's my daughter. Howard University, junior year, just went over Delta Sigma thing.
We now are allowed to know.
Shout out to Sid. She's doing amazing things. She's working at Google. This is her third year. She's going back out to Silicon Valley to work for Google.
So she's a techie like her dad.
She is.
So she gets a
so
fly.
So
is his son.
Does she get a fly nerd?
Now I gotta send her one.
Okay. Okay.
And
so fly nerd T-shirts for all. I don't know if we.
The entire Stokes family gets one. I need to go make a family so my kids can get one. I'll let y'all know. To be continued.
But so back to the regularly scheduled program. I had a guy, Willie Coleman. Shout out to Willie. I walked into the Baltimore office.
Willie Coleman is such an old school name, by the way. This brother.
He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, he's a preacher now. He's retired from HP.
All right, Willie, but you now have to subscribe to the channel.
Willie, when I tell you, I walked in the building, and I'm like, who is this dude running at me? He ran at me full speed. He's like, what's your name? I'm Willie Coleman. If you need anything, you call me. Here's my information.
That's how Black people be.
He was so happy. He was so willing to just immediately take me under his wing without knowing
anything about you. You were just Black.
That's
all he needed to know.
That's all he needed to know.
Yeah.
And Jamon worked directly for him. My homeboy Jamon, we were both at HP. He worked for Willie. Great guy. But yeah, it takes that kind of intentionality. Mm-hmm. Like go find the folks. Sydney, when she told me when she got to Google, older African American lady came up to her and said, "Hey, I'm so and so. I do this. This is how this kind of stuff works. Blah blah blah." Mm-hmm. And you have to do that. You have to go out of your way. You got to go out of your comfort zone to try to make sure that we keep pushing the culture forward. Right?
Absolutely.
It's like the episode of Blackish. Like all my references are TV. I don't know if that's good or bad. The episode of Kenya, right? Of the
all this stuff is good.
Blackish episode when they're like, when you see someone in your space, of Willie Coleman, you hit him with the nod. Like I see you. It's just a couple of us, right? Yeah. I think those people are so critical, but it's so crazy that we're talking about this in 2024. right? Like, at
Absolutely.
what point do we get to a place where
This isn't the
on the table?
discussion.
We're just talking about talent.
Right.
The best talent are the people that come forward. And I think we've all experienced where that's not the case. Like, I know people who are incredible interviewers. They come in, they like dance, and they get the job. They get your dream job. They come in, they can't write strategy. They don't know numbers. They don't have a creative bone. I said, but wow, you sure know how to land the plane in an interview, right? Whereas like me, I'm not that great in an interview, but you put me on your team, I'm going to suit up. And you're going to get some championships out of me. So like that's the
you're gonna get some rings out of me.
Some rings out of me. But you know, like I think that's a challenge. And sometimes like even being is fair. I'm so fair skinned, right? But like being the only black woman in the space sometimes or in the room sometimes it's discouraging. Because I'm like, I know how light I am. Right? Like there has to be someone that is of a browner hue on behalf of like this culture that has mad capabilities and is probably equally talented or more talented than many people who are at this table. That's challenging for me. Very, very, very annoying and frustrating.
The other thing that we kind of got to deal with is once you go in there and you prove yourself, you do it. It's like you're different than the rest of them.
Yeah,
you're a unique one.
I'm not.
You're not like the rest. Like nah, we are all
the same. Yeah. I've been hearing that since I was 10 years old. Right, in the communities I lived in, we don't like black people, but we like y'all. Right, like it's crazy.
And I've always been good at math and science, so I've always done STEM stuff, and I've always kind of been protected because like we got a black guy who's good at math and science. We're gonna move him along, and we're gonna do. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, it's a bunch of people.
Right, there's a bunch of
opportunity that can do this.
To bring it back to be more, I was getting in an Uber the other day, right? And I was just like, I thought about hacking, right? And how my entire childhood,
we created Uber,
you know, you put the finger up and you hop in a car, you don't know this person from anywhere.
Nothing.
The car is probably going to break down before you even get to where you're going. But we invented that, right? But like no one wanted to believe in it. And someone just took it and made it into a multi-million, billion-dollar company.
It's like we did it. There's no record of whose car you're in. There's nothing. You jump in with your mom with your groceries and y'all go home. I remember me and my buddy Kevin Goff, we were talking about this. He went to I think he was in LA. He was somewhere, probably Silicon Valley when Uber like first started. And he was asking about transport, like, oh, this is app. You know, you hit the button and somebody comes in their car and they pick you up and they take you wherever, blah, blah, blah. He said, hacking? And it's like, what's that? Nah, not like computer. Not computer hacking, like hacking, like hacking. Right. We've been doing that for years in Baltimore. Like, this dude's lined up outside the grocery store at Mondom, outside of Superpowers. Old dude retired, jump in the car, give him a couple bucks.
My mom still gets a hack. And I'm like, Ma, I send you an Uber. She's like, no.
Yeah, I'll be there in a minute.
Outside the grocery store got me for $4.
Yeah, easy.
But I think even like you brought this up, like giving access, right, to those tools. Like we talking about AI now, right? And like we know, first of all, it's here. And what will it take? What will it wipe out, right? Yep. And it's like, black kids are so smart and talented, and most of us just do stuff because it's fun. We just want to figure it out. It's like, all right, cool. I'm off that now. I'm on to the next thing. But like, it's like creating environments where we kind of put that stuff in front of them, where it's like they just start playing with it, and like, what can you do with it to kind of train them for the next thing? Because it's all actually very cool. Sure. It's just giving them access to it to like, all right, go play with this and see what you come back with.
Yeah, I leave that up to my daughter. I watched Terminator too early in my childhood. Yeah, Skynet's gonna get us. I'm done up.
It's here, man. It's here.
I'm done. I'm so skeptical. So she runs with that stuff.
At this point, I'm like, okay, so if I don't make it to 67 in this field, because AI then came in and took my job, well, what talents do I have? Hey, I don't even know what other talents I have outside of.
You'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Like
we'll be having another little session where we're like, all right,
y'all make some plates? It's gonna be different. Yeah,
people always need to eat.
It's gonna be different.
So
it's gonna be different.
Right. So that's another question. I have so many questions that I want to ask y'all.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but I was gonna say I think you're going down that road, right? About how AI is going to change.
Sure. So let's talk about AI. Okay. So let's think about it, like even in our space, right?
Right.
Let's say, and you might be able to do this now. Let's say you can go to AI and say, hey, I'm building an app. I need you to build me a Java class that takes these two inputs and spits out this.
I think so. Louise, can't they do that? Yeah.
Or Python, like once you get to a point where somebody who can't code can spit out. All you got to teach somebody at that point is how to flowchart.
Right.
If you can flowchart an app, you can build it at that point.
Right. That's right. So there's a bunch of Chat GPT, or let me not say Chat GPT because that's not
AI,
the only
right,
AI tools though that can do that. You give it the requirements and it can develop the code. Ooh. And I think it could even you could tell it to write testing for it, right? And different harnesses for that. And you can even give it testing or execution requirements. So I need this to run in this time space with this memory footprint, that kind of thing. So it's even down to the level of it can optimize the code and the algorithm for you based on whatever restrictions, if you have memory or space restrictions, things like that.
That sounds Skynetish. I'm telling y'all.
So the question that we have then is what is it going to do? And this is all perspective. You just speculation, right? I want to ask Ashley because
I'm already telling you because I'm not going down this rabbit hole. Please ask Ashley.
No, wait. You can't not go down this rabbit hole. Will it replace developers? Because Luis and I go back and forth about this all the time.
We've already said that.
So will there be less software developers? So will Google be hiring less software engineers?
Definitely entry level.
Okay. So and I think we agreed there.
Definitely
right?
entry level.
Yeah. What else? That's it? Are there going to be less designers? Less architects?
You gotta think technology increases exponentially. Right. If we're here now, I don't see what the limitation is going to be.
So when I said, and Ashley asked me the same question when we were at Black and Forth when I was teaching I think that was the AI and machine learning class. For me, it's now going to be about throughput, how much you can deliver and how much you can develop. So companies like Google and Amazon already have really tight deadlines. They're already very fast. People are working like slaves, But I think it's going to exponentially grow where they're well, we know you didn't have to write this code. You put this into our code generator tool that's built into the company's work suite, into their tool suite. So now we need you to be able to produce these features even faster. You need to be able to be on them quicker. And then it's down to now we have more architects and designers and less actual SWEs that are doing the work.
So based on what you just said is one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah.
Right. AI is going to push deadlines and compress the development cycle.
Absolutely.
To a point where people are going to, in an effort to build faster, better, stronger, are going to forget the safeguards that need to be in place to contain certain functions of AI, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think at some point, somebody or some group of people are going to put production in front of containment or whatever, governance, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's where Skynet comes in.
I'll be back.
So I agree. I completely agree with that. I do think junior developers are going to be fewer and far between, but we're going to need more governance, more compliance folks, more people in the space.
The problem with that is, where did the governance guy come from? The governance guy's the guy who was developing for 10 years and now he can govern. If there's no entry level, you're never going to get a suite of any kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of factory putting out those skill sets. And if you eliminate the foundation, at some point, you got a significant problem.
Yeah. So, I don't have the answer either.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world. But
my daughter feel like it's going to make the world a better place. I promise you, I hope she's correct. I promise on everything.
I feel like you don't believe it though.
I absolutely 100% do not.
Right. All right. So what about you in the industry that you're in and all the experiences you've had? What are your feelings about AI and what it's going to do to the industry?
I think like anything else, we have to embrace it. We have to learn it quickly and catch up. It's here, right? So I definitely have peers who are terrified by it. You have writers who are typically writing scripts, right? Really nervous, and you put it in Chat GPT and that thing turned out a script in 30 seconds. Now, the difference is there are some human nuances and some cultural context that you got to circle back and be like, I would say this, but 100%. I would say this.
But you at 85?
We're 85.
90
right,
probably?
Because there was this one instance where I was playing around with it and I said, read this to me in the way Megan Thee Stallion would read it. Ooh. And that thing was dead on. So it's a matter of training it, right, to understand your brand voice and your brand guidelines it's there because it turned out that in seconds.
But I had to do copy for a website, and I gave it. When I tell you 2 days, maybe 3 days worth of work, instantaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, you just go back and like, nah, I wouldn't say it like
Right.
that.
I wouldn't say it like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
It's real.
when I tell you it spit it out,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
The other thing is, we were sitting on this session called for this platform or this tool called Runway, and I'm watching the videos that like the producers are just making in like 30 seconds, 5 minutes. Really, the longest part is them learning how to use the tool and speak to
Sure.
it. They were, I mean, movie quality 30-second spots of saying, hey, I want the bees to chase the dog. And you just have this really beautiful dog who's galloping, chased by hundreds
That's
of
crazy.
bees, right? And all you did was type in, this is what I would like to see.
Yeah.
And is it
That's so
Sora? Is it the Sora video that just came out that I think Tyler Perry was like, I was getting ready to build this entire
Studio.
operation
Yeah.
studio. And he was like, I saw that and scaled back.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's beautiful, right? But in the grand scheme of things, I think the concern is you think about, well, if it's going to actually put a good amount of us out of jobs, what happens to the rest of our community, right?
Sure.
That we've already. I was in New York in the store, and it was self-checkout, but you like put the clothes in a basket and it automatically pulls up everything that's in your basket.
Oh, and it just like rings it up.
It just rings it up,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like
Crazy.
I'm like 70 years old. I'm like, oh, what did
Yeah.
no
And
instructions.
it's cultural difference, right? Like when it does that and then it doesn't give you a receipt, like I'm not walking out this
This
store.
I was
without a
like,
receipt.
Right. You like,
Ain't no way.
yo,
Y'all ain't
I-
tackling me out
They
front of the
said,
store.
listen, the girl came over. She said, oh, scan your app. So I pulled my app up and it scans the barcode. And it came out. I said, so did I pay for it? She said, no. I said, okay, because you're not
Yeah,
about to
you're
catch
not about-
me
yeah.
coming out of a store in New York. And then my brand is like,
Yeah.
Ashley.
Ashley
Yeah.
caught
I'm
shoplifting.
from Baltimore. I know I can't just walk up out of this spot, right?
They're like, I knew you want to go back to that
even
Baltimore
that
tactics at
experience,
some point.
even
Yeah,
that
I'm not gonna do it. You're
experience
not gonna
was
catch me
like, I
slipping.
was like, you're not catching me slipping. One thing I learned growing up in my neighborhood is I ain't walking out of the store with
All the
$200 worth
receipts.
of
Yep,
stuff
in a bag.
Right.
in a bag.
I'll give you 5 cents. I'm
Yeah.
taking a bag. I'm
Right.
not walking
I'm
out
not
with
walking out with my
Not
hands.
gonna happen.
But it was
I think that's
fascinating.
cultural. I think
Yeah.
that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like, not giving me a receipt. Nah, well, you gotta write something. You gotta check box.
Hey, give me some kind of note because
Something.
I don't want any smoke
At
when I
all.
walk through the metal detector.
At
I don't even
all.
think they had metal detectors, which is why
That's
you see
crazy.
where I come from.
That's even
I'm
crazy.
like, I'm like this. Don't let
You
the
be like,
thing
I
go
gotta
off.
make sure I don't have. Oh, right. You
The
be like,
thing go off. I look around. I say, hey, you can check me. I'm good.
Right.
That's all.
every
Yeah.
time the alarm
Yeah.
goes off, I be like, I don't
But
have
like-
something on me.
Even what you were saying just now about like we've gone from just being able to write copy to write a After Effects piece, like
Yeah.
Right.
full post production
Mm-hmm.
piece in 3 years. So 5 years, 10 years, what's that gonna look like?
Yeah. It's
And
wild.
processing power just gonna get bigger. Memory's gonna get everything. It's
Yeah.
gonna continue to grow exponentially.
Yeah.
So you just really got to figure that out. And I don't think. And this is where like the talking between the money folks and like I don't think the concerns of the developers are reaching enough of the. They like
Right,
we
the
need to get on AI
Yeah.
because it's jamming. And we need to make some money
Yeah.
off of it.
Right.
And developers like it can also cut this power grid off when they feel like you're
Mm-hmm.
jacking something up.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of things that you just really got to think hard about. And I feel like with automated systems, how are you going to govern an automated system with another automated system?
That's true.
Right.
And I'll simplify the conversation. My house, which I was so excited about, I'm driving, I put a little button on, my air conditioner's ready for me when I come home,
Yeah.
the TV is on. That power go out.
Hey,
In the dark ages,
I'm in
a
there dripping
caveman.
sweat. I'm like, I don't know if this was the door then sends me
The door won't lock anymore.
Yeah.
notification saying, hey, by the way,
Hey.
your door ain't locked
Yeah.
because your power out. And I'm like, I don't know if we thought this through.
right.
It's too tech. It's too techy.
I'm telling you, man. It's
Literally, it's that movie. What was that movie with Julia Roberts?
Yes, that's yes.
Yeah, that was-
we get
And
so
then
excited,
Elon
we
put
get-
out a statement that wouldn't happen to all the Teslas. I don't know if that's real.
I know he was hot,
right.
but I don't agree with Elon stands for DEI, so I don't care what they do. With it.
Right. You don't care what
And I
happens.
have a Tesla. It's my last.
So
one.
it's you done with the Teslas.
done.
Okay.
I
But
gotta put my foot down somewhere where I can.
I'm gonna stand on something
Exactly.
or fall for anything. And this is it.
So, okay.
And I love my Tesla, so that's a lot. Love it.
But you're done.
I'm done. 100%.
That is a stance.
Yeah. I've taken before, actually. I've taken many before.
Yeah.
To my detriment.
Yeah. Kudos to you, man. That's what we don't do enough of.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time, and I have a lot of things that I
right.
wanted to ask y'all. So I don't
Speed
know.
round. What are we going to do?
I don't know. Okay. So for people who are both tech interested and creatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both. So like I'm fully tech. I'm not a creative.
I would argue with you on that, but that's fine for this podcast.
Yeah, because this is speed round.
She's
so we
not
don't.
tech, but she's designing.
She's super cool, right?
Who wear
all kind of
logos, but she's not creative.
No, I'm not. But what do
travel
you guys?
blog,
Right.
Podcast.
Right.
I do a lot. I'm busy. I'm a busybody.
All those
There's a
creators.
difference
Someone who's
between
not
being a creative and
Uh-huh.
being a busybody.
All right,
So-
we'll agree to disagree.
You know,
Continue.
we do it. We definitely both agree to disagree.
2 votes to 1, so really there's no point even discussing any further. So continue.
Y'all done?
Well,
We could go.
We could keep going. I think that's the wrong question
This
for
is
us.
why
do
you
that.
don't bring your friends onto your show.
We can do this all night.
No. But okay, so for those people who want to combine those passions, what do you guys
Sure.
think? What are your recommendations? Like, what's out there from your side of the world where you're like, you have to be good at both? And what's out there from your side of the world?
I would just go back to what I was saying. Technology is so ubiquitous at this point. Any field you get into has a tech aspect, right? Even if you're, let's say you want to do fashion design, your tech, you could do some kind of app that
Right.
lets you do layouts or right, or something to come up with design patterns or something that makes the fabric, like automation for the sewing machine or something. There's always a tech aspect to just about any business right now. So I think you're lucky in the aspect of that. You're not limited to the old mainframe
Right.
room days like
Right.
it used to be. Sitting in I remember I used to sit in the computer room with headphones on, right? I'm so old. I've fed punch cards into a computer before.
That's
on a
crazy.
program.
I only heard about that on the movies.
I was in computer camp in 3rd grade. Punch cards.
That's crazy.
Punch cards. And I was walking to the joint and dropped them. Almost quit the class.
Because they were out of order.
Stack again. It was gone. I'm like, I'm not. We're done here. We are done here. Mom, come pick me up. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Nah,
that's
but
crazy.
like, yeah, it's the options are almost limitless at this point.
Yeah, I will agree with that because I have next episode I have a guest coming on who is mental health, fitness, physical health and wellness. And like one of the things that I've been telling people is I try to predict app trends, like gaps that are in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a whole lot of sustainable, holistic health and wellness apps that are really helpful. I mean, we got MyFitnessPal will help you track your food,
Yep.
but like they're very like separate and disparate like functionings. And so one of the
I hate
things
that
him
about
and I
that. Like there's no actual portal that you can feed all of those
your
different-
data in and all of
everybody
that.
wants to own the data, so
Right.
everybody builds their own segmented
And
portal.
so you have to use 17 tools
yeah.
to get to
Sure.
what you holistically as a
Sure.
human
Yep.
need to live your best life.
Yeah.
You want to sleep, you got calm or
Yeah.
all
you got
that
your
stuff.
Fitbit on when you sleep.
Yeah, right.
You got
You
your heart
got-
monitor over here.
right.
For, wow,
You got MyFitnessPal to track your food. It's
and
a
then all
hot
like,
mess.
nah, you got to use our app.
Yeah, all of that. So like that's even in this world, if that's your thing, like building applications to help support your people is like
That's dope.
crazy. So what do you think? Like creative and tech together.
So when I was at Woodlawn, I actually was in the engineering program. So kind of that very research, science, math background, but I've always leaned more into like I'm a creative at heart. What I've learned in like leadership, and especially as a VP, like my team is often surprised at my ability to be creative
Okay,
because I
yeah.
lead with strategy and
Right.
numbers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm like,
sure.
hey, we 85% to goal. What we gonna do about it, right? I think like now there's art that like has no restrictions or requirements. You just go paint and design and do your thing. But when it comes to social media, to me, there's actually a science
Right.
behind creative.
Yeah.
Right.
And that has been some of the discipline that I've tried to introduce to my team. The algorithm is going to tell you exactly what it wants.
What the
Right.
inputs. Yep.
When you take a linear promo and put it on social, it is automatically going to fail because the algorithm reads it as something that's not native to social.
Right.
So what we've done is my team will take something in-house and we'll say, okay, what is this formula for success, right? You don't start or end on a graphic card. That's what linear does. You start and end on
Wow.
us having
I
a
didn't
moment
know,
where
like,
we're
yeah.
laughing and we're like, ha, 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 ha. Then you jump into
Dropping
what you want.
jewels.
Right.
So
Like, can we
it's
get
an art.
AG dropping
Right.
jewels.
So
Can
right,
we
it's a
talk about my
science.
social media?
And my team, yes, we
Thank
have
you.
to. My
Ooh.
team has been like, they
I
were
guess it's not
very
good, guys.
resistant to a lot of that kind of thinking because they just want to create. And then my feedback to them has been, I don't want you creating 1,000 pieces of assets, right? That does like, let's say 100 likes. I want you to create 100 assets that does 1,000 and 1,000,000 likes. And to get there, there's a formula that if you follow, it will reward you, right? And the algorithm, they tell you, the platforms tell you like community guidelines, they will put the language in there to say,
Really?
hey, if you don't create it this way, we are going to deprioritize your
Yeah.
content, and it's never going to reach the people
folks
that
you
you
want
think.
to.
You can have 1,000
Wow.
followers, but if you don't make it correctly, you 5% of that audience, your followers will see it. So like that's why I say like even in creating for social, there's a science behind it, and you have to study because it changes frequently and often.
Yeah.
But once you get it,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's gone.
And I'll say, for example, a couple years ago, Instagram Meta, right? They were like, we don't just want you to post videos. We want you to post reels.
Right.
And when you post a reel, you can post the same thing as a reel and a video. The reel is going to be 4 times more successful than the video. But it's just getting ahead of that and knowing that you're not just on the platform for the sake of being on the platform.
Right.
If it is a business, you are understanding the requirements of each platform.
Wow.
And a 9x16 is going to go further than a 16x9.
Bars.
Period.
All right, so now that we
Wow.
are on this side of things,
Social
and I do
training
need to,
101.
so
Ooh,
right,
so
and
dope.
that's what I'm about to pick your brain. I'm so sorry,
Yes.
but like TikTok, right? From our standpoint, there's a lot of controversy as tech individuals, especially tech for the government. We all over here like, oh, are they gonna
I don't
ban
even
it?
have one.
Right.
I don't
Well,
want any smoke.
I know, and Luis and I argue all the time.
What a loss for TikTok. Because
I know, because you
I'll
could be
rock
doing
out.
the video. Yeah, absolutely.
I cut rugs. That's what I do.
Absolutely. But like Luis and I go back and forth because we be arguing about whether or not TikTok's banned for government employees and all that good
Not in your
stuff.
personal life.
Hey, I got
Or
a
is it in
solution
your
better.
personal life as well?
Delete.
No, you can. What?
I said I have a solution. Just delete it.
Delete.
TikTok off your phone.
Me?
See,
So
here's
I
the
have
thing.
it. He does it, and he be like, "They gonna come
TikTok.
get you. They gonna come get you."
Don't call
I
me.
I believe this is still valid, but if I'm saying it correctly, TikTok has surpassed Google as a search engine.
That's great. Yeah, people go
So-
for actual information on TikTok. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I was.
That is
I was like
crazy.
in one
Crazy
part
to
of
me.
New York the other night, and like I was just like, great places to eat near such and such.
Right, and the TikTok came
And
up
the
videos.
thing is,
And
like the
TikTok came
difference
up?
between Yelp and Google is that I am watching you, what you ate, what you drank, the
Yeah.
ambiance, what do I need to wear, because you're capturing it all in your video recap. And it's like, boom, boom, I want to go try this
That's so
restaurant.
smart.
Yeah.
I'm not installing
So the
it, but it's
question
smart.
is, like, is that the future, and how long do you think it'll be the future? Right? Like, do people really need to start for those like business owners, entrepreneurs? Trying to go viral, trying to make TikTok footage and reprioritize away? And like, will it be like that for?
It's definitely challenging because we don't know what's going to happen with the law.
Right.
Like if they ban it, it's banned. Then all the work we've put into it is, it's
Done.
it's non-existent.
Do you think it'll be banned though? Do you think?
I
or-
kind of don't think it's going to
like
happen.
I think Google will buy it or someone
Yeah.
in that fashion.
Yeah, because
Especially that you told me they surpassed Google
Yeah.
on search. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Google's like, nah, we got to cut down this competition.
100%.
And that's what a lot of people don't know about the legislation is that they're just trying to not have the sole
Chinese
ownership.
bullshit.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So it's somebody they got to sell it to somebody. They're not saying they got to sell all of it. They're saying the majority stake
Yeah.
needs to be sold
In
to
the
someone
American
else
portion,
that's
the domestic portion.
a divested interest. And so some people don't know the details of that. But
Yeah.
so you don't think it'll happen?
I don't think what'll
I don't-
happen. Like
That
ban
they'll
totally?
actually ban it.
No, I think somebody will buy it. They'll
I
work
think
out
someone
the
will buy it
numbers. It's too
before
much.
they ban
It's talking
it,
about
yeah.
too much money, too many numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got anything to say,
Walk away.
Luis? No? Okay. Just making sure, because Luis has a lot to say about TikTok.
And
I mean,
I want to say
the
shout out
fact
to
that I didn't
Luis
know.
because, you know,
Behind
he's
the
the
scenes.
hardest working husband in
Fire.
podcast
No pay.
business.
How much you get paid? Just what I thought.
Mad supportive. So shout out to
Yeah,
the
just
people
what I thought.
behind the microphone.
Yes, my
Yeah.
producer.
Or other side of the
and my
microphone.
husband.
I understand that life
Yeah.
very well.
Absolutely.
You guys do it so well.
Hey.
And
we
I've
just need to
asked
copy
him-
and paste you all.
Any questions, let me know. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for several decades.
So collabs, because we're talking about TikTok, we're talking about social media. In your experience, what's the key to building and maintaining successful influencer, brand collaborations and partnerships? And Phil, I know you want to act like you don't understand this,
No, I
but you
understand
do
totally.
a lot of campaigns for big.
I'm thinking
businesses.
about my answer.
Okay,
I'm not.
all right.
I'm not.
Okay.
I understand 100%.
Right. All right. He
Want me
keep
to
being
go?
like, you should have talked to Shalonda for that.
No, I never said that once while we were on air.
Nope,
Okay.
one time you did.
I said she could do it better. I said I'm going to speak to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
no.
what
So-
is the key? And I'm asking both of you.
100% communication.
Okay.
Collaboration only falls apart when you're either not honest, you're closed-minded, right? Collaboration is all about the best of both of your ideas in any space, right? An event, activation, whatever it is listening and listening to understand and not listening to respond. Right? You want to understand what that person is saying or what they want or what they think it should be, as opposed to let me listen to them enough
So I
to
can get
give
what
them
I
an
want.
answer about what I want to do and make that the solution.
Yeah.
Right? So that's it. That's what I think.
Okay.
If I recall the question
Yes.
correctly, I think it's consistency.
Okay.
I think that part of building a brand, a lot of people have great ideas, right?
Yep.
And they go hard on social, and then they get tired because they aren't seeing, they're
The
not reaping
rewards.
the rewards of the investment.
Me.
But it is definitely, it's studying. It really is studying. It's taking a look at other podcasts and saying, okay, here's what they're doing that worked. Let me try that. Let me tweak these few things. Understanding the guidelines, the creative guidelines that we were talking about. But it is consistency. It's building it's building a voice. It's building a presence, and keep going. And then I do think we've seen enough examples where if you continue down that path, something is going to hit, right? Like the Risa Tessa young lady, the Risa Tisa, the young lady. Who did I marry?
Oh.
Who did I marry?
We were
Right.
all
You
like,
the social guru. I was like, I don't know. What
I
you're talking about.
never.
This
Yeah.
young lady is sitting in her car, episode 1.
Telling a wild
Who did I?
story.
And then that thing started picking up, and it became 60 episodes,
Right.
right? With then deep dives. So I don't think she set out to think that this is
Sure.
going to
Blow
hit.
up.
Yeah.
But she kept going, and then at some point, someone saw episode 5 or 10 and started passing that thing around, sharing it, and then
Yeah.
that, right? And then look at the success she's. Tubi
Yeah.
already made a movie.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. I thought you were asking about collab, but 100% on building the brand, 100% consistent.
No, both. I mean,
Yeah.
some of
I
it
think we
is
both
like
tag team,
Yeah.
back
Back
again.
again.
Not quoting that.
Just that one line.
So this centering on the collabs, and this is just in light of current media and things happening in the world. What happens if you've built campaigns or partnerships or collaborations off of an individual who ends up in some type of public controversy? So
Man.
I'm not gonna say no specific
Sure,
names,
sure.
but we got some people out here with a lot of brands strapped on their backs.
It's tough, right? Because the climate today is very different than when we were kind of really in that space. But I don't know. The cancel culture is so aggressive. It is very difficult. You really have to pay attention to who you're aligned with or attached to in any kind of form or fashion, because folks want to hold everyone accountable within that ecosystem. It's usually a figurehead, but it's an ecosystem they're trying to kind of dismantle. So I don't know what you do once it's you saying like once it's already out there, once it's happening.
Yeah, like it's somebody that you've either is
don't know
the
what you
face
think,
of your
that's tough.
brand, or you've decided to collab with them. You know, and I'm thinking like less controversial, but like the lady who had the family lifestyle vlog where she ended up, they found out she was abusing her kids and stuff. So all of the like partners that she had, they're like, their businesses are tanking. And that was a collab. It wasn't, they weren't, you know, messing with that lady. And then you've got Adidas
difficult.
and
when
and
your
Kanye
streams of income are
and-
tied together, it's super
right.
difficult.
And so it's like, yeah, like what is that? What happens in those places, and how do you survive if?
First of all, in the background, you are. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, it's a crisis disaster for sure. I think trying to understand, let's say the campaign hasn't launched, you're pausing it for
Yeah,
sure, right?
absolutely.
And you're hoping that there's a
Sure.
day when you can launch it, and then
you
at
keep
some
those
point you
assets in.
realize we just lost a lot of money probably.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better to lose a lot of money than go live on something that the moment you push it out there, you already know
You're
what
not
the
target.
what the response is going to be. And as a brand, you are held to different standards,
Mm-hmm.
and you are accountable to so many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally are a reflection. If we say we're not a monolith, that's really when it
Yeah.
shows up. Where
Yeah.
it's like you may check the box
You
and
are
like
absolutely
5
a
people
monolith.
weren't offended, but then 4 are.
Right.
And it's the same level of crisis. So best case scenario is that it's not live yet, right? If it's live and it's something that's happening in real time,
You gotta detach.
you obviously have to scale back. But one of the things I've noticed, especially about like the younger generation, they aren't as
Appalled.
pressured
Yeah.
by their brand
Sure.
commitments than I
Sure.
think we probably, like, even in me in marketing, right? I'm very conservative about like who did I partner with, and
Right.
just try to
Sure.
do my due diligence on does it align completely. And you're gonna miss like things that's happening in someone's personal life that's
Mhm.
not public. You're not going to catch
Know
those
everything,
things,
yeah.
right?
Sure.
But it is it's a risk. But what I've noticed is that like older generations
Yep.
are much more mindful of like,
Sure.
I represent this brand, let me be on my best behavior, my best public behavior. But then a lot of younger artists and influencers, they don't have that same level of
Yeah.
pressure for
Right.
whatever reason. Like they are sometimes like,
Or-
well, if I lose
yeah,
this check,
I don't
cool,
care.
I'm gonna find
Yeah.
another, which is fascinating
It's
because
very
I'm like,
fascinating.
oh, okay, but
Kids will make a 180 where we be like, well, we started down this path. We got
Yeah,
it. Kids be like,
yeah.
no, this
Yeah.
ain't working out. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do the exact opposite.
yes,
Right.
yeah,
And go right to sleep and not lose a wink.
Right.
Where you're pulling your hair out like, what am I gonna do now?
Right.
Like,
My whole
yeah.
I'm ruined. I'm
Yeah.
finished. So do you think there's cases where, you know, controversy has helped brands or helped, you know,
What's your brand? Is your brand controversy and then you're Gucci?
have you ever seen a controversy actually catapult somebody into spotlight that they didn't have before?
in this moment, I cannot think of anyone that I think landed bigger
Right.
than they
Yeah.
probably would have landed without it.
Had it
Yeah.
not.
But I've seen some people make some really incredible comebacks.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I think there's a level of pressure that we put on public figures that it's like pastors, right? Like you want
Sure,
your pastor
100%.
to just by nature be on their best behavior.
Yeah.
And then the moment you realize they're human,
Then
you
it's-
know
yeah.
that it's like, well, we need to have a meeting about is this the right congregation for us? I think just people in general, like we do put a great deal of pressure on talent and public figures. Now, is it warranted to some extent? Yes, because they are role models and they
Right.
are in a public setting where they represent a good amount of people and they represent brands at that point.
Right. All right. Well, I had a billion other questions, but what I want to do is I think, you know, I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to try to get in your DMs in a few weeks and see if we can come back together, because I think it's very enlightening and important for people to kind of hear from, you know, powerhouses in the industry and like the things that were helpful to you in your journey, and also kind of your perspective and what it looks like today versus what your perspective might have been 10, 15,
Sure.
for Phil, 20, some
30.
30,
As
some
far as you want to go back. I
years
would do
ago.
that. Yeah.
But I love you guys, and I'm so happy that you joined us. And is there any final things that y'all wanted to say before I, convene and speak to my audience?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Phillip, for saying yes and sitting next to me. What an incredible experience this has been with you. And then I want to say shout out to you. I'm very proud of you. I know how important this space is for you and like a Black woman in tech, and just continuing to kick down doors and be an incredible representative of our community. Aww. So thank you. I want to toast both of y'all because we've come a very long way.
Absolutely.
And in the glitch, in the grind, and in the glow. And maybe I pass that. You want to do it again? You take it? You should do glitch, grind, and glow.
No, it's okay. It's all right. We'll do it next time.
Shout out to the fly nerds.
Oh, yeah. One more shout out, because I know that she's going to be watching this episode, and I wanted to make sure that everybody saw.
I was going to say that shirt one too.
Yeah.
Those are both Fly Nerd.
It's Fly Nerd t-shirts. It's Fly Nerd down here. And Ashley, let me hold up yours. This is my endorsement for Fly Nerd. But this is the shirt that I gave Ashley and I got by Phil's whole family.
What's the website? Where can we get those?
FlyNerdApparel.com. I will put the links down into the comment section below so that you guys can go get your Fly Nerd t-shirt.
Love it.
I'll also put some social media links to Ashley and Phil. I don't know if they're trying to stay incognito, but
I'm public now.
Yeah. So y'all can find them, follow them.
I'm out here.
Hop in their DMs and ask them a bunch of random questions. Hopefully y'all get a lot of good questions in your DMs, and you gotta let me know so we can read them.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. It's a nice forum. I had a great time.
Aww.
Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good work. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So to everybody else, thanks for joining us. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Oh, thank you,
my guy in the back.
Yes. We'll put the podcast studio link in the
check them out. Really nice setup
as well, so you can find a good space, because he was amazing, like amazing host for us, and I'm so grateful that we found this space right here in Baltimore. So remember,
Baltimore's finest.
Like, subscribe to Glitch Grind Glow. I'll drop all the socials, but it's Glitch Grind Glow on Instagram, Glitch Grind Glow Podcast on Facebook. Check us out, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter so that you guys can hear about different events, because I will start having in-person classes soon for those business owners that need to understand how to do certain things, like set up your sites or set up your SEO. Even though I'm honestly not the right person, I think I need to get the algorithms from Ashley.
SEO is not mine.
It's so hard, and I'm like,
call me little algo.
So drop your comments in the comment section below. If you guys have any experiences, I think there were a lot of things that we discussed today that I feel like perspectives. If anybody went to PWIs and you have a different perspective, if people went to HBCUs and you have a different perspective, there was a lot of things discussed across the board that I think we'd love to explore deeper and follow on episodes and bring, if we get some good questions, I might be able to convince Phil and Ashley to come back and answer those questions live, which would be amazing.
Pre-screened, of course.
Pre-screened for sure.
No, because I send you pre-screens and you don't even read them.
Don't do that way.
Stay together. Black people, stay together.
All right. Until next time, transform your glitches into opportunities. Keep on the grind and let your success glow.
First time I heard that one. Okay,
Let's go. Let's go, Ted.
Yes,